The following is a demonstration of a feature that I've wanted to develop for a long time. It's still under development, but I'm just showing an example of what I'm working on. So one of the features that I added on early into GraphPad was the ability to add tables. I'm just going to drop a table in there. And the idea is that as I drew things, it would interact with the drawing. And so say, for example, I wanted to calculate a line or an area. If I, for example, went over to lines mode and did calculate, and added the calculate length, you'll notice it adds it to that table. And to be honest with you, when I actually created the first couple of tables, I just wasn't even convinced I could do it. So there's a lot of limitations associated with those tables. And the first limitation that comes across is you can only have one table. So even though with this table here, if I select another table and try and drop it on there, you're not going to get a response. And that's a limitation. And what it is I had not architected it correctly in order to support multiple tables. That, however, has been corrected, and now I'm actually creating a new type of table, and that type of table will be able to have multiple tables on a single screen. And so, for example, I can have calculation tables. I can have, in this case, I'm going to have various tables which are used to calculate volumes. I can have multiple versions of the same type of table, and those tables will work as you expect. And so if I actually did a calculation here, I would be able to multiply through. So one thing I didn't do right here, it's calling the wrong type, so I'm bringing up a keyboard, but if I just press on these and add 2, it calculates those values. You can tab through the entire table, etc. But you can also turn around, go to another table and do the same sort of thing. So I can actually have multiple rows here. So I could have calculations of cylindrical volumes and cubic volumes, etc. Whatever I wanted to do, I could have a table for doing that. Now, how could that be used? Well, the first example is a different type of summary page. Okay, so if we look at this first table up here, let me kind of zoom up and I add a record to this. So this isn't exactly how I would do this. Description is much too small, but I have a description field in there. And now I have unlimited text. I can put in returns. And what will happen is when I tap out of that screen, it's going to actually resize it and then have a total. And so if you look at a lot of invoices, that's the type of table they're looking for. You have an item number, a description, price and quantity. But that description could be rather lengthy. And so again, we could actually marry that with the library and have a whole bunch of text, boilerplate text that came across. Say, for example, you're putting in gutters, it would drop in everything except for the values, and you would have to type all that stuff in. And then it would actually go through, and you could have multiple fields at the bottom as well. It's architected into it, so you can have like a summary cost, a total cost, and then you can multiply by the tax. You could have a discounted rate, whatever you wanted down below there. If you would take all these values and sum them in one direction, and then do another calculation, which feeds into another calculation, and on and on. So there's a lot of capability just in that. Again, we had the other example where we have multiple calculations that are being performed off of a drawing. And then just the natural one, and what I'll do is I'll just take this table away so I can drop in the other type of table. I haven't created this yet, but you could have both a legend, which would categorize, get this correctly. So we'll do electrical symbols, which would actually specify the type of symbol that's in there. Let's try this again. There we go. So as we dropped them in, it would show what the symbol was, give its description, but could also be adding and calculating part of a summary as well. And so those are features which I'm actually working on. Another example is that I'm going to be looking at is the ability to have a button down here so it can actually do some other sort of calculation. So it could be a summary, or it could be, in the case of certain dimensions, being able to draw a line. So take, for example, the pool guys, and what they do is they put out 2 pointers, and then they do distances between those 2 pointers, and that's how they actually as they go around a pool. And so they do A-B measurements, and it's a simple form of triangulation, so they can actually get the exact shape of the pool just by doing this triangulation. You could do the same thing with a table, and then have a button that would actually physically draw what you had. And that would actually make it very easy to spot if you had a measurement that was off. You could actually see that in the drawing and know to go back and get that other measurement. So there's a lot of things that I can do with these tables, particularly as it integrates or interacts with the drawing itself. So there was actually quite a bit of coding and also architecting to make that work. Another aspect of this, you can take that data, you could put it in a format that can be specified. So these tables are something that I can code in. And when I say code, I should say configure. So I can define the table to have as many columns, the font that I want, do the calculations without making changes to the application itself. And so someone could download the product, and I can create a configuration file that would create the tables that they're looking for. And the names of the values, again, could also be something that they could specify, and that would facilitate the integration with backend systems. So as you can see here, I've shown the names for these fields associated with this table. So if I sent this out as JSON, it would have the table name, it would have the various field names and the values associated with those in kind of a dictionary sort of format. So radius 1 value, height 1 value, and the total volume value, right? So you could actually capture the data in the field and then send that as JSON or XML or whatever you wanted to a backend system. So that's really one of the features that I've been working on. This is really more applicable to larger companies that need those sort of things, but even at the smaller companies, say for example pool guys, again, if they wanted to have a table that allowed them to enter their AB data and then actually draw the pool itself so they could actually see if there is some sort of a problem, that's the sort of thing that this new development will support. And that's my presentation. I hope everybody likes that. Thanks.